Okay, so I guess I'm recording. How do I know if my microphone is working? I can draw on the screen? Oh my god. Okay, I'm gonna draw Puff next to Fuko. And this is what spellcatchers would look like if I drew it with my mouse. Hello, everybody. My name is Katie from the internet, and I'm the creator of Spellcatchers, the show that is on this YouTube page that I'm trying to get started. I thought that today I would do a behind the scenes video because that is what you do when you make a show. So, yeah, why don't I show you guys a couple of stages that the project went through. Yeah. So, what are my main inspirations for Spellcatchers? Well, like you probably guessed from the way that I wrote my main character, is that I grew up watching the animes. And one of the shows that I liked watching as a kid was Cardcaptor Sakura. And there was one episode of Cardcaptor Sakura where she caught a creature that looked kind of like this body. Do you guys remember? I think it was called the Speed Card or something. But I remember thinking it would be cool if all of the cards were little creatures. Because a few of them were, but a lot of them were women. Human women. And some of them were objects and other things, like the maze card. So that concept evolved a bunch. I would say my main inspiration is Cardcaptor Sakura, but obviously I have other inspirations. Like Precure. Oh, what is that show called with the witch girls? Magical Do-Re-Mi. Yes, Magical Do-Re-Mi. I think she looked like this. And one of the thoughts that I had was, what if, like in Cardcaptor Sakura, similarly to Cardcaptor Sakura, in order to cast a spell, you had to catch it first. And that project eventually became Spellcatchers. It went through a couple of iterations. As you can see, I have a folder here called Early Work. Back in the day, I don't know why I opened this on Microsoft Paint, but the first iteration of Dolly looked a lot like this. But obviously, when I decided to actually make it into a series, I redrew the characters. Dolly now looks like this. As you can see, I streamlined the design to make it more animator friendly, and I also just made it not so rough. Yeah, no. The spells also used to look different. Oh, goodness. This is a folder of spells that I drew. I've designed so many spells for this project. One thing that you may know about me, if you know me, is that I design characters to relax. So I drew a lot of spells. This is what Puff used to look like. Yeah. She kind of looks like an alien. That's not good. And obviously, I streamlined the spells design too. Here is our new design for Puff, as you can see. I streamlined the design as well. When I was a kid, I spent a lot of time hanging out and coming up with little stories with my best friend, my older sister, Emily. Me and Emily were best friends, and we came up with a lot of ideas together. And I remember one time my sister said to me that the very best stories took place in summer camp. Emily said, all the best stories take place in a summer camp because it gives the kids freedom to do whatever they want. And I took that to heart, to the point where when I was trying to come up with a location for my characters to catch their spells, I ended up thinking, well, they should be at a summer camp, because all the best stories take place in summer camp. That's what Emily said when we were 4. As you can see, this file is called Wandless Edit, and that is because I'm trying to keep it a secret what characters will get wands. Because more than just Dolly, if I can reveal that much, are going to get wands. And in the finalized pictures of their character designs, I have the wands hanging from their hips the way Dolly does. So to keep this spoiler light, I made this wandless edit. These character sprites also appear in the credits. So I came up with this big group of kids. I tried to make each one of them interesting. I thought it would be really fun if during the first season, for the people watching the show to play a little guessing game over which characters would get wands. So I tried to make each one of the kids who go to the camp interesting in their own right, so it wouldn't be completely easy to guess which characters would end up getting wands. Because a few of them will. If you're a really great detective, you'll probably be able to guess how many kids are going to get wands, because I've baked secrets into the channel, and even the logo of the series has a hint as to how many kids are going to get wands, but more than just Dolly will. Eventually there's going to be, like, Dolly's like our protagonist, but eventually there's going to be a good cast of characters, a little ensemble cast, if you will. This is the Spellcatcher spellbook that I wrote up by myself. It's far from being done. But those, I believe, 9 spells, as well as Puff, that appeared in the pilot episode in that little montage at the end, they have finalized designs and little spell pages. But as you can see, this document is more than just 4 pages, and I'm not going to show you the rest, because spoilers. Here is, okay, so the very first step that went into making the pilot was, of course, writing the script. It's almost one-to-one with the dialogue that ended up being in the final product, but there are some things like, I believe there's a cut scene where Matilde has a conversation. It's almost one-to-one, but during the recording stage, I improvised some phrasing. This line was so hard to say, and I tried to say it so many times in the recording stage, but I just couldn't say it. I'm gonna try to say it right now. That is super weird. I guess we must have some sort of pranking ninja in our midst. I can't say that. I wrote it into the script, I just can't say it. So I had to change that line in the final draft. It's not that different, but there are little parts here and there that ended up being changed. Just like in the last bit, you can see that this is a lot longer than just the first script, and that's because I've written 2 more episodes. Episode 2 is going to be called The Lightning Spell. Here's a little preview for you. Enjoy your preview. Character design has always been my biggest passion, but I've also always loved creating little stories. I think of creating characters as a lot like playing with dolls. I make up characters and then I make up little stories for them, and that's how I ended up having an interest. I've always loved cartoons, I've always loved animated movies, and I've always loved watching like behind the scenes videos on like the special features and the DVDs and learning about like how television production is made. And so I've always been fascinated with what goes into creating an animation. You'd see, I think, in the credits, I put in that somebody named Richard Cubbin is responsible for the storyboard scans. And that is because after I finished drawing the storyboard in my little notebook, I went up to my dad and I said, "Hey Dad," here's my dad. I said, "Hey Dad, will you scan the storyboards for me at your scanner at work?" And he was like, "Yes, I will." Yeah, so my dad scanned the pages and I digitized them. I thought it would be cool to show, because the original idea for making this storyboard was that I was going to pitch it. I put it on YouTube and I still want to pitch it to, like, I don't know, a company that produces TV shows. So I thought it would be cool if in the pitch I could have different stages. So for this is what it originally looked like, but I decided to digitize the first couple pages of the storyboard. So then I took the scans and I put them on Photoshop. And I digitized the first little bit as a way to show off what I wanted the finished product to look like while still keeping it in the storyboard stage. And I've had comments from friends telling me that that was good because it really helped them to understand what the visuals of the other parts of the episode would look like. For that first shot, this is a funny story. For that first shot of the sun shining down and scrolling down to the boat in the ocean, I looked at so many anime scenes that are like summertime beach episodes so that I could show exactly what I wanted it to look like in my head. I was looking at like the sky in the melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya and being like, oh, lens flares. And I know that a lot of people don't like lens flares in animation because it's silly, because lens flares happen when you videotape something, and you categorically cannot be filming the sky in an animation. But you know what? If they didn't want lens flares in my cartoon, they shouldn't have made them so fun to draw. Yeah, so the ones that I didn't fully digitize, I still put them into Photoshop and cleaned them up a little. Some of the pages were originally quite smudged. Yeah, so I also, in addition to enjoying the process of making cartoons, I also like voice acting. And I've never taken an official class with a teacher or anything like that, but I've always really liked voice acting, and so I'm a little bit practiced. Back in the day when I was like 12, I used to have a little tape recorder like Peridot in Steven Universe, and I used to make audiobooks for my novels. That's my main experience with voice acting. My great, amazing novels that I thought were so good because I'm a writer. Yeah, I have some experience in voice acting, not professionally, amateurly. I'm an amateur voice actress, let's say that. I did all of the voices for the pilot. Every single line of dialogue is me. I didn't sound great when I was doing Puff, but I tried my best. I like to make little noises and stuff. I was like, ah! Now, one thing that we're going to talk about that you may have noticed is that certain panels had more color than others, like these ones. They look a little awkward, actually. And that's because early on I thought about it and I was like, I like drawing people, but I'm not very good at drawing backgrounds. But you know what I can do? Because I went to school for it and have a college diploma, is make 3D models. So I used my good old-fashioned video game design know-how to make a 3D model of the entire island. So while I was doing the storyboard, when I was doing the digitized version of the storyboard, I should say, I would take screenshots of the backgrounds where the characters were standing, and then to make the designs match for that first part, I would bring the storyboards into Photoshop, or the screenshots into Photoshop, and then I would give them outlines to match the characters. And I don't know if it looks totally amazing. I think it looks a little awkward, and if you know that's how I did it, you can definitely tell. But I'm not a a background artist. I'm just a girl who likes to doodle. So that's why I did it that way. So when I wanted to show off what the cabin looked like, for example, I would put it in this stage to show my process. Again, if I ever decided to pitch it, that would be the reason that it changes here and there. So I thought that for fun, we could take a little tour of the Campcaster model. So this is where, you like my boat? This is where the campers come in onto the island. So the first building is the party hall, and this is one of several models. There's just a little handful of models that has an inside too. Not all of them do. Some of them are just hollow. But yeah, this is the party hall where the kids will have their dance, and there's also, if you read the brochure, going to be an episode where they do something called a summer showcase, where the kids are going to put on a little play for camp investors. So that's where that episode is going to take place, in that room. This is the registration office where the kids were all lined up to sign in with Nursed Heroes. So then after they went to registration, they went here to the big flagpole. There's the Campcaster flag. Like I said, it's a star that's also a tent. This is where Madame Castor gave her speech to the kids who were all sitting on the benches. And then after that, they went to lunch in the dining hall, which is right here. And is another building that has its own interior because of the big windows. And these tables I modeled, although they look a little awkward. They look kind of bumpy. They're supposed to have these like moon-shaped cutouts because Madame Castor, the camp founder, she likes space. So you'll see a lot of stars and moon motifs around the island. That's because Madame Castor has an affinity for space. That's the buffet table where the kids got their food. And then over here, this side, is the kitchen. This is where Dolly burst in and had that moment where she drank Chef Tadio's soup. That's right here. But obviously, I didn't model the stove. I'm not crazy. Don't look at my 3D model folder. Where's some other places that they were in the pilot episode? The gazebo. This is the gazebo, again with the stars, because Madame Castor loves space. This is where Dolly goes to read her wand journal in the middle of the night. Over here are the girls' cabins. So this is the cattail cabin where Dolly and Nolana sleep. We haven't seen these yet, but this is the dandelion cabin and the clover cabin where the other girls sleep. And this is the girl chaperone staff cabin back here. This is the East Beach. I don't know when we're ever going to go to the East Beach. It's not in any of my episode descriptions, but I did make a snack shack with surfboards because that's what camps have. Another place that they went to in the pilot episode was the South Beach. This is the South Beach where they have the beach party. There's the volleyball net, the tetherball court. Over here we have an area where the kids swim, and I have some kayaks. I like my little kayaks. I think they're cute. Over here by the staff cabin, this is where the table was, the snack table, where Dolly met Buzz. And then afterwards she runs over here into this little area of trees, which is where she names Puff. This is the little pond where Dolly figured out that Puff was the one who turned her water into gelatin. In the episode, there are like cattails and lily pads on it, but I didn't model those because I can draw that stuff. Now the rest of the model is all places that weren't in the pilot episode, but in the next episode, episode 2, they're going to be here in the gym. And so you'll end up seeing the gym in the next episode. Are you excited about the gym? Over here, these are the activity cabins. This is the game cabin. That one's also going to be in episode 2, where the kids play board games and stuff. This is the arts and crafts cabin, and then this is the quiet cabin where the kids can go if they need some quiet time, and it's also got a little library in there. Over here, there's a baseball diamond. I don't have any episodes where the kids play baseball, but there's a baseball diamond, so maybe I should. This is the archery field, which also has an area for fencing. This is the timeout cabin. And you will also be seeing the timeout cabin in episode 2. Oh, this is a water tower. Do you like it? This is Nurse T. Rose's nurse's office. That's also got public restrooms in the back. So if the kids ever hurt themselves or need help with anything, they can go over to Nurse T. Rose's nurse's office. This is the big fire pit where the kids have their campfires, eating marshmallows, telling stories. Oh, over here, these are the boys' cabins where the boys sleep. They're called the Mushroom Cabin, the Pine Cone Cabin, and the Acorn Cabin. So all the cabins are named after different things that you can find on Castor Island, like nature things. I went to a summer camp when I was a kid that did something similar, and I thought it was a cute idea, so yeah. And that's the boys' chaperone cabin. Over here is the old fishing house, the old fishing shack. As you can see, It's a little worn down, and that's because it's not used very often. And it's also maybe haunted. The kids think it's haunted. This is the climbing course. Because every summer camp that I ever went to as a kid had a climbing course where you could do rock climbing. They always have that thing where you go up a ladder and you wear a harness and you climb across a rope bridge. And trampolines. Trampolines are a big summer camp thing, but as you can see, they are Camp Castor branded trampolines. And this is what the campers call the big tree. That's because it's a big tree. Spent a lot of time trying to make this bridge look nice, and I think it just ended up looking kind of chopped. But here's a bridge over to Crescent Island. Crescent Island is where Madame Castor lives. She has a house, pretty little house, as you can see. She has an affinity for space, so there's lots of stars and moons. That's the map of Camp Castor. As you can see, it is shaped like a star, just like on the pamphlet. Oh, one more thing. Obviously, I made the 3D interior for the cattail cabin. So this is the interior for the cattail cabin. The cabin where Dolly, Nolana, Pasala, and Nyla sleep. So I thought I'd show that off too. Okay, so this is Dolly's bunk. Obviously she has the big dollhouse that her mother made, which she loves to take everywhere with her because it's very important to her. Oh yeah, I did make an entire 3D model of this dollhouse, including interior. Why did I do that? I don't know. I don't know why I did that. But it does have rooms. So that's Dolly's dollhouse. These are her dolls. This one is Alice in Wonderland, because that's my favorite book. This one matches the poster, this poster. This is Dolly's favorite magical girl, who I've been calling Star Fairy. And this is the princess doll that used to belong to her mom. They look kind of creepy, actually. 3D models of people are not my strong suit. But they're just there as a placeholder. When the dolls actually get focused on, I will draw them in a 2D format, because these are creepy. Over here we have Dolly's posters, which I drew myself. There's Star Fairy, and there's just some other magical girl. I don't know. Let's name her right now. Her name is Angel Pink. This doll on Dolly's bed that she sleeps with, this is a rabbit, which I have called Tsuki Tsubasa Sagi, is the name of the rabbit, and I picture it as sort of like a Sanrio-esque character that Dolly really loves. Towards the end of the pilot episode, you can see that she also wears slippers of Tsuki Tsubasa Sagi. Over here is the bag that Dolly's carry-on bag. Under the bed is the suitcase that she had the dollhouse in. Then she has the suitcases and another backpack where she has her clothes, and then I imagine she would have put them in the wardrobe. This is Nyla's bunk. Nyla is a girl who is a little bit mean, but you know what? That's just how some teenagers are. And so her main personality trait when I came up with her as a character was that she was going to be the sort of popular girl who's popular because she's really good at sports. So I decided to make her bunk more themed around her soccer expertise. So she has the medals on the wall, a little trophy that I even put her name on. This is Nolana's bunk. She has flowers. Nolana loves gardening. But she's also a very, very nice girl who is kind of like one of those one of those girls who's sort of neutrally liked by everyone, the kind of girl who isn't necessarily a popular girl but isn't picked on in middle school, who will adopt shy kids as their friends. That was sort of my concept for Nolana. She's also sort of a little bit motherly. She's like a girl that Dolly would feel comfortable talking to. That was my whole concept for Nolana. So here I have, she's got her flowers, she's got her purse, she brought a lot of plants, and so I ended up designing this suitcase that's like a portable terrarium. And I have some flowers in there. And this is Pasala's bunk. Well, she's kind of inspired by like the kind of friends I would have in middle school who really liked like pop music and Justin Bieber and wearing these cutesy little makeups from like Dollarama. That was my concept for Pasala, so I did lots of like cute little, she's got perfume bottles, which, by the way, never ever bring perfume bottles into a public space. I'm very allergic to perfume, and so is my sister, and we could get real sick. But Dolly isn't allergic to perfume, and neither are Nolana or Nyla. So Posala gets a pass on that. So that's her bunk. And yeah, so that's what the cattail cabin interior looks like.
As a quick little aside, I thought I'd make a little iPhone video of what the storyboard looked like in its original state before my dad did those great scans of it. As you can see, I'm left-handed, so it's quite smudged. I'm really glad that my dad was able to get the scans working with that professional scanner at work, because these are hard to look at. Oh no, Ainsley, what happened to you, darling? Over here is that cutscene I was talking about. It's in the storyboard notebook. It's just a quick little scene where Skylar calls her sister over, tells her to say hi to the girls. As Matilde, she says hi, and then she walks away. So it was kind of a nothing scene, but that's the only thing that really changed from storyboard to pilot. Everything else is pretty one-to-one. Here's that scene with Kenna. I'd really like, because of that whole guessing game I talked about wanting to be a thing, where I want the viewers to guess who's going to get wands, to have at least one scene in each episode that focuses on someone outside the main circle. So because the main circle is just Dolly, I liked having that scene that focused on some other characters. Scene with Nolana and Kenna and the other girls. And then we focus back in on Dolly, and that's when she meets Puff. So yeah, that's the storyboard. So I have a day job as well, a job that I do when I'm not working on my show. And when I'm on break, I like to do little drawings. And phase while I was working on the storyboard, I decided to practice drawing Dolly different emotions. There she is. She's cold, she's sleepy. I liked the idea of having her little pigtails emote with her face. Very anime-esque, similar to how Edward Elric from Fullmetal Alchemist or Konata from Lucky Star, how their ahoges sort of emote when they flap around when they're angry or upset or excited about something. I wanted Dolly's pigtails to have a very similar energy, so you can see like when she's surprised, they spring up. When she's sad, they're droopy. I just thought that would be fun. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed watching my behind the scenes video. I don't have anything planned next, so why don't you leave a comment and ask a question, and maybe next week I'll do a little Q&A or something. Okay, bye!
So the very first thing that I did was come up with the idea. That is a stupid sentence, but you know what? This video can be edited, so